Welcome to immigrationquestion.com, your go-to resource for U.S. immigration insights. We provide clear immigration news and information. Our platform provides a network of licensed attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylums to citizenships, immigrationquestion.com helps you to network with immigration attorneys so that you can move forward with confidence. Sign up today or download the app. Free registration, limited time offer. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Not hearing you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Gerstein. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition webinar hosted by immigrationquestion.com, a networking platform and meeting ground where immigrants, families, advocates, and licensed immigration attorneys come together to understand U.S. immigration policies and procedures better. My name is Shibi Sotusa, and I'll be your host for this important discussion, avoiding delays in marriage-based petitions, documentation, and interview tips. Now, marriage-based immigration is one of the most common pathways to obtain lawful permanent residence in the United States. However, the process can involve detailed documentation, strict requirements, and potential delays if applications are not properly prepared. Understanding what USCIS expects, how to avoid common mistakes, and how to prepare for the interview process can help couples through this process and reduce the likelihood of delays or complications. Now, to help us break this down, we are honored to be joined by William Gerstein, Esquire, an experienced immigration attorney who assists couples and families with marriage-based immigration petitions, documentation, and interview preparation. Attorney Gerstein, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you.
My pleasure.
Now, before we begin, an important reminder to our audience, immigrationquestion.com is a public educational and networking platform. The information shared today is general informational purposes only and does not constitute legalized individual advice, right? Now, if you are joining us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, or any other platform, or welcome, please subscribe and share this session with anyone who may benefit from understanding how to avoid delays in marriage-based petitions. Let's dive right in. Attorney Gerstein, what are the main steps involved in a marriage-based petition, immigration petition, and where do delays most commonly occur in the process?
Generally, the steps when you're working with a lawyer is that first we would do an intake to determine if there's any special issues that need attention or that might make the person ineligible. Then we would tell them what documentation we need to collect, things like birth certificates, marriage, passport, items for the affidavit of support. Then we provide them with questionnaires for info that we need so that we can prepare the various applications. We give them a list of suggested evidence as far as the bona fides that prove the bona fides of the relationship. And we assemble a package that has the various applications, the supporting materials, the evidence of the payments of the government, and we ship it off. So that's generally the process of how you apply. And as far as avoiding delays, you want to make sure that you have access to important documents like your own birth certificate. The petitioner has access to documents like their tax returns and pay stubs, and that the couple follows our advice as far as building up bona fide evidence of their relationship.
Yeah. Now, what types of supporting documents does USCIS expect to see when the couples are in a marriage-based petition, and which forms of evidence tend to carry the most weight?
Well, people usually think that photos are the ultimate item of importance, but they're not. They are part of painting the wider picture. As far as the photos are concerned, we tell people Just have picture the couple sitting on the couch is completely useless. But when we have the couple interacting with other family and friends, or where they're obviously away on vacation, those are much more valuable. Sometimes people think that you have to have some kind of grandiose wedding in order to be able to prove that you're legitimately together as a couple. But truthfully, the most important evidence is financial evidence to show that you have shared responsibility and that you've combined your lives in this manner. So these would be things like joint bank accounts, insurance, payment of taxes, and other obligations that you share. You could be on the same cell phone bill. You could be on the same utility bill. All of these are examples. I realize that these days people don't necessarily share everything as far as a bank account, but what I suggest to my clients is to at least have what I call a household operating account where you each put in the agreed upon amount that is going to be needed to pay all the bills that you have in common for the month. If you want to have a separate account for Amazon or your shopping or whatever you do as an individual, that's fine. But the household operating account is very important.
Yeah. Now, attorney, many applicants receive requests for evidence or RFEs. What documentation gaps or inconsistencies often trigger RFEs in marriage-based petitions or cases?
The biggest thing and the best thing I can tell you for advice is that people, including U.S. citizens, because they're no better, people get an ID, a driver's license or a state ID, and then they move, and they just figure, well, I don't really need to bother to update it, and it always becomes an issue that the couple has different addresses on their driver's licenses, and when a background check is done, it looks like the wife is still living at home with her parents and that the husband is still living with his roommates from college or whatever it may be. Keeping these IDs up to date is not only state law, but is important for the immigration process. It is critically important, and people cannot be lazy about it.
Yeah. Now, how can couples demonstrate that their marriage is genuine and ongoing?
Well, in addition to the evidence that that we spoke about,
Yeah.
they could get a couple of letters from people that know them well. So sometimes you might see where there's some sort of format letter or some form where you put in your name and you put in the couple's name and you write one or two sentences and just say something that you think that they have a valid marriage. These are totally useless. Okay, they're useless, first of all, because they don't have any details, and second of all, because all of the ones that are collected end up looking the same. I would rather have two detailed letters that describe how well somebody knows the couple, when they met each person individually, and examples of the types of things that they do with the people as a couple. They might say, yeah, I met him at work, and then my girlfriend and I went out with him and his fiance, and we found out that we all have bowling in common. So we would go once a month to bowling. They also came to my house for Thanksgiving, and their families were out of town for Christmas, so they came to my parents' house, and this is what we did. Affidavits like this are much more useful than just couple's name, and yes, they have a good relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, what should applicants expect during the interview and how should they prepare?
Well, in our case, as you know, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I found that I was saying the same thing over and over and over again. So in our case, I filmed a video that we put on our law firm's YouTube page that describes from beginning to end exactly what happens. We tell them how to dress, what to have with them. They need to have their originals. So that means things like birth, marriage, passport, things of that nature. As far as evidence of the relationship, the best way to do it is to upload it to the USCIS account. prior to the interview, even if it's the day before the interview, because it'll be sitting there already part of the file waiting for the officer. If the officer has to take the time while you're sitting there pulling things out of plastic sleeves, opening envelopes, removing staples and paper clips just so that they could scan it, they're wasting half of their time doing what's your job. So the couple or the representative doing this beforehand is extremely useful. Now you're asking, what actually happens at the interview. Not to repeat our whole half-hour video, but the short answer is couple checks in with their appointment notice and photo ID. They're waiting in the waiting room till they're called. When they're called, they follow the officer to their room. They're sworn in. Generally, the petitioner is questioned first about the relationship. So the petitioner needs to be prepared to speak for approximately 5 minutes, explaining how they met their spouse and how their relationship developed over time. And they can refer to the various pieces of evidence that have already been uploaded or what they bring with them. When the officer is satisfied with what they've seen and heard about the relationship, they then move along to the adjustment of status portion where they're speaking to the beneficiary. They're confirming the details that were put onto the application, and they're asking all of the approximately 80 eligibility questions. That usually brings the interview to a conclusion where the officer might give them a sheet that says that you were interviewed today and that we'll be reviewing your file and we'll get back to you in the mail. That's essentially what to expect.
All right. Now, attorney, in situations where couples are called for second or Stokes interview, what does that process involve and how should couples prepare?
Well, it involves them being questioned separately and the answers being matched up. So what would happen is the officer would call in the petitioner first, would ask, approximately a half an hour worth of questions and type or record the answers. Then they'll switch with the beneficiary and they'll ask the same questions to the beneficiary. And this is where it's very valuable to have the attorney present, because as the attorney, you're there for both sides of it, not just one side of it. And especially if there's some kind of misunderstanding just based on context or language, the attorney's there to clear it up. Once both spouses have been questioned, the officer will bring the couple back in to either say, hey, this all matched up, I don't have any more concerns. Or they might say, well, you answered this way and your spouse answered it this way. Do you have any explanation for this? And then that's a chance to either clear up any questions about how they answered it, or for the officer to point out an obvious discrepancy.
Yeah. Now,
and how they would prepare for it. Yeah, so you're asking about how to prepare for it.
Yeah.
There's two ways. First of all, the true way to prepare for it is to live with your spouse and to talk to them and to share your life together. Speak to each other about what happens during your days and share your responsibilities, your financial responsibilities together. And be aware of how things get taken care of in your household. In addition, all of our clients get a list of, approximately 50 to 100 questions that we've taken from actual interviews. And we tell them that they should go over them together so that they remember things the same way. Different things might have different context and different cultures. Some person, if they ask about a proposal, one person may think it was just, the first time that they broached the subject of marriage. Another person, might say, oh, it was the time where, I presented this engagement ring. So it depends.
Yeah. Now, attorney, looking ahead, what practical steps can couples take to avoid delays and present a well-prepared application from the start?
Well, you want to make sure that everything is given to the attorney upfront, that you answer all questions honestly, that you don't hold back, because if you do hold back, it's going to come to bite you later, and the attorney doesn't have a way to, to sort of prepare for that. There's a couple of things that are forgiven in a marriage case, at least if it's a marriage to a U.S. citizen as opposed to a permanent resident. And those are overstay and working without permission. Overstays are obvious, but working without permission, oftentimes the beneficiary may refrain from talking about it or telling the lawyer about it because they think that it's going to cause them trouble. And it's not that it isn't without consequences, but there's greater consequences if they don't answer truthfully, because now it's a question of, are they even credible at all? But they want to make sure that everything is provided to the attorney up front, that the medical exam is properly completed, that the affidavit of support has all of the correct documentation, and that you provide as much quality evidence of the relationship as you can at the beginning, and that you continue to gather this evidence while you're waiting for the interview so that there is new evidence to show at that time.
Yeah. Thank you for those insights, attorney. Now, for everyone watching, this discussion about marriage-based petitions is not meant to create concern, but to encourage preparation and attention to detail. Providing complete documentation, maintaining consistency, and preparing thoroughly for interviews can make a meaningful difference in how smoothly a case progresses. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. ImmigrationQuestion.com is a networking platform where users can ask immigration-related questions at no cost and engage with participating attorneys. We're also thrilled to inform you that ImmigrationQuestion.com is BBB accredited and ISO certified, reflecting our commitment to transparency, accountability, and community education, as well as security. Now, Attorney Gerstein, based on your experience working with couples and families, how does ImmigrationQuestion.com help immigrants and immigration attorneys like yourself?
Well, it provides accurate, unbiased information, and it connects people that are looking for quality attorneys with those serious people that are taking their case seriously. You take your case seriously if you're willing to invest the time, money, and effort to hire an experienced attorney to guide you through the process, and not just assume that you can learn everything you need to learn from YouTube or TikTok or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Thank you for those thoughts. Now, before we move into our live Q&A, let's tackle this very important question. What is one misconception couples have about marriage-based petitions that you believe should be clarified before even starting the process?
Sometimes they, as I mentioned before, they think that they have to have a big wedding with everybody around in order for them to be believed. Sometimes they think that they can explain away the fact that they're not living together for whatever situation. In those cases, we tell people, we're happy to help you, but wait until such time as you're able to live together before we start your case, because otherwise you're basically just headed for a denial, unfortunately.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, we've been speaking with attorney William Gerstein on avoiding delays in marriage-based petitions, documentation, and interview tips. We are now moving into our live Q&A session. This is your opportunity to ask general questions and hear educational insight from a licensed immigration attorney. Please drop your questions in the chat or call us live at 516-703-3483, and we'll take as many as time permits. How long does a response to Form I-130, take right now for a spouse?
So after, it depends how you're asking the question. So if the foreign spouse is overseas, then the I-130 is processed through the mail, and it's generally taking, I would say, about 12 to 14 months, okay? If it's filed with an I-485, an adjustment of status for somebody that's in the United States, we generally tell people that they're going to have the interview within 6 to 12 months, although we've seen many cases where it's been shorter, like between 2 to 4 months. Once the case has been through the interview, you can expect a decision anywhere from a few days after to several weeks after. most of the cases would fall into those timelines. There are some cases where, for whatever reason, it might take months to get an answer. Those are more of the exception.
All right. All right. Are USCIS marriage interviews becoming harder or not? Or now? I think they wanted to say or
Okay.
not.
Yeah. So I don't really see them as being any different. I've been to thousands of interviews, including many under this latest administration. So I've found them to be pretty consistent throughout the whole time. Regardless of what administration is in charge, they have a duty to protect and uphold the integrity of the system, which includes making sure that married couples really are together.
Yeah. If my case is taking too long, is there anything I can do to speed it up?
Yeah, so first of all, you could check the processing time online with the USCIS. If it's gone beyond the normal processing time, there is a method on their website to make a processing time complaint, and they'll usually get back to you within a reasonably short period of time. If they're non-responsive, or if you get a response saying that it's still within the normal processing time, despite the fact that it lets you make a complaint, you can make an inquiry through your local congressman's office. So you would look up who is your congressman based on your address, and on their website they'll have a form related to help with federal agencies, where you'll be able to give all the details, and they'll be able to get a response. That usually takes about 30 to 60 days.
All right. I and my spouse don't have many joint documents. Can my case still be approved?
So this would depend on the reasons. If it's just that you don't because you haven't bothered, well, get out there and make it happen, because nobody else is going to do it for you. The lawyer could give you suggestions, but they can't follow you around.
Yeah.
There are other reasons why people may not have. Maybe it's a very young couple that are still living, they're living, with the wife's mother or something like that, and they don't have a mortgage of their own or utility bills of their own. Or it may be that the things that they're trying to do together cannot be accomplished because they don't have a social security number, because the work permit's not been processed yet. So this is why people are approved for conditional cards. A young marriage of less than 2 years gets a 2-year conditional card, because when you do have your card, of course, you'll be able to get your social security number, and then you have 2 other years to be able to prove the bona fides of your relationship when you deal with the removal of conditions.
Yeah.
But one of the best pieces of advice I can give is that, let's say you go to the bank and they say, well, we can't open an account for you guys because she doesn't have a social security number. Don't take no for an answer. Go to the bank across the street, then go to the one down the street. One of them's going to open it for you, because there's plenty of foreign people without social security numbers that do have bank accounts. And there are other options where the U.S. spouse could have a bank account and maybe join their foreign spouse onto it, or make them an authorized user.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard people are being arrested at interviews. Is it still safe to attend?
Well, again, it depends on the circumstances. The reality is you're applying for a benefit, and if you don't show up, then you're not going to get anything. There have been stories out there where a spouse is detained when during the prior administration this would have never happened. They might be detained because the underlying non-immigrant status had run out, even though they're in the adjustment of status process. It is something that's unfortunate. It is something that's terrible. But the bottom line is that if you don't show up to the interview, you're not going to get anything, and they already know who you are and where you are, and could find you otherwise. So you might as well go through what you can.
All right. Is it possible to waive my interview for marriage green card, or is it compulsory to attend one?
It's not up to you whether it's waived or not. In the discretion of the service, they can waive the interview. In the past, a number of interviews were waived, especially during COVID. And then even after that, where a marriage case was well documented, the interview might be waived. These days, very, very few of them are waived, but we had a couple that was married for 10 years and has 3 kids and lots of documentation and was here legally throughout. It could be waived, but not as often as they used to be.
Yeah. Now, recent reports indicate that the Florida Attorney General has threatened the removal of the Tampa mayor over an immigration policy dispute. Public disagreements over immigration policies can sometimes create confusion for immigrants and families trying to understand how local and state actions may affect their cases. Now, Attorney Gerstein, when immigrants hear about disputes like this at the state or local level, how should they interpret these developments?
Well, I mean, I think of them as political matters and political pressure, and they have to realize that local police forces could be checking their immigration status, and they have to be careful what they're doing out there. In one of my social media posts, I talked about a Florida law that prevents frames around license plates because they block certain information. So my advice to my clientele was, don't have it on your car and don't get in a car that has it or that has other violations, because you're looking for trouble. You're looking to have an issue, and you have to call the least amount of attention to yourself as possible.
Yeah. Now, do these types of political or policy disagreements typically impact individual immigration cases, or should applicants remain focused on federal immigration procedures and requirements?
They should remain focused on those procedures and requirements, while at the same time making an effort to not call attention to themselves, as I was saying. People have often asked while it's going on, oh, can I go to Puerto Rico? Can I take a cruise? Can I do this or that? Well, my answer is, can you just wait, until this is over? Then you'll be free to do what you want, because in the meantime, you might be causing unnecessary problems for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who joined us for this special edition webinar. And thank you so much, Attorney Gerstein, for sharing your knowledge and practical guidance with us today. You can always visit immigrationquestion.com to ask immigration-related questions, stay informed about policy updates, and register for upcoming live events. If you missed any part of today's important discussion, the replay will be available on Spotify soon. Just search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday at our next live session. Until then, stay informed, stay prepared, and stay connected. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Attorney.
Okay. Have a great rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye.